Welcome back to the Thoughtful Advocate podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Teo, and today we're going to talk about boundaries and really holding them up as a parent, coming from someone who was never had boundaries and very low self-worth. So I'd like to give some background on this particular topic. This is something that happened to me recently and something I've been through before in a different way. And I want to try to be as I possibly can, because I want to use those, even though it's painful for me, I want to transmute it to something that can be helpful to other people. So most of the people can focusing on the lessons of this, and just really walk through it because I feel like other parents can relate, especially when it comes to childcare. Okay, so for context, I am 38 weeks pregnant, and so I'm very heavily pregnant, constantly tired. My feet smell 90% of the time because I'm sweating and a lot heavier than usual, and hormone changes, of course. And my body is just exhausted. And I have a toddler running around, so I definitely need help because I just can't bend the way I used to. When I bend, it hurts, and honestly, it is a bit dangerous for when you're pregnant to be bending so much. So this is why we hired help. And of course, John is still working. I often have the night shifts, and when he's not working, of course. So that is most of the time. So knowing all this is why we planned ahead and ensured we had a nanny. And it's just difficult when, you have plans, and even though I'm exhausted from the night, that you're going to have help tomorrow. When those plans get canceled, it just you feel destroyed and distraught. So this happened a couple times this week, and there was a lot of miscommunication. Honestly, her nanny's been great. She has her contracts ending. Obviously, she has to search for a new job, so that's been getting in the way of our agreed times. And it's been difficult, especially when it's been canceled the morning of, and I'm trying to search for someone else. And I've definitely had some anxiety cries and freak out cries because I know it's just going to be hard for me to watch him, especially in the night. I've been having more travel horses again because I've not been doing my stretches. I'm trying to, but it's just hard. And I wanted to share this episode because I know other parents have been here, whether that's canceled plans with a nanny or your babysitter or something's happened at daycare and you have to take the day off. It can be a lot. And again, I'm not pointing fingers. I understand why, but as a mom of soon-to-be two, I have to put boundaries and really be firm with scheduling, which I have not been before. And there's just often times where I would say, oh, it's okay, she'll come the next day, when it's actually costing my peace and rest and anxiety, and it's causing me distress. I really have to put my foot down. And today we're going to be talking about boundaries and caregiving, basically. If you've ever been pregnant and you have already other children, you know how taxing it could be, and you know you need to prioritize your rest. And when you're heavily pregnant, or just pregnant in general, you're oftentimes more vulnerable emotionally, physically, and it's honestly its own kind of survival mode before the real survival mode kicks in. And by that, first couple months with your newborn, and your sleep's already compromised, so you're exhausted and you're working overtime. And in a way, many ways, body's not your own. So having a routine is very important. And it's not just a nice to have. I think it's mandatory, especially for your own mental health and the sake of your body and your baby's health as well. So when you hire help, you expect them to arrive from the agreed times. And when that doesn't happen, it's just very distressing because it's hard to find a backup. So if you ever had childcare, encourage you to have the babysitters, nannies that can come help, maybe a family member. So that way, you're not alone when you're in the most vulnerable position. And John and I decided to hire help because, one, I need it. There was times where I was getting so exhausted, I was falling asleep, and I think that's so dangerous, especially with having a toddler, and just some days where I just couldn't get up because I had a Charlie horse this night, and my calf, it's so stiff, it's really hard to walk. And at one point my hip was really hurting. I was carrying Ace constantly. So many reasons, but I think if you have the means, even if you're digging into savings a little bit, to get that extra help, it's really going to save you in the long run. And of course, you're already carrying heavy mental load because a baby's coming anytime. And so it's good and definitely needed to have, if you have expected help, for them to come. And of course, at one point, I had these thoughts that old Elizabeth would have had oh, am I being too much? Am I asking for too much? And then I was like, yeah, no, I'm not asking for too much. Like, we agreed on these times, and obviously we're paying, so we just expect person to be there. And yeah, I think it was hard for me to hold boundaries because honestly, I think we became friends, me and the nanny. So yeah, there was a lot of times where I felt like maybe I was like, oh, being too nice. And obviously she did a lot too, but there were times where I could have held my boundaries more firmer, but I feel like it's so much harder with friends. And I've never hired help before, so I really didn't know how to delegate properly and hold those boundaries. And yeah, I think when you become friends or you blur the line between caregiver and family, it can be hard because you're more likely to let things go and the other person can sense that the boundary is not so strong there, which I think is important to be comfortable around your boss or someone who's hired you, but there does need to be boundaries like in a workplace and set expectations and so on. I was already breaking down a brain, so I just need to find someone else who can be consistent with me and appreciate all the things that the previous nanny did. We do need consistent care, and someone doesn't show up when we agreed on the times. So yeah, this is our third nanny that we've had. Yeah, so far so good. I was honestly pleasantly surprised. I was expecting worse, like going through the whole crying thing again, but that happened so far. I think again, very lucky, and I think these experiences show me that. So I'm very glad and grateful that I learned from the second time around, like how to find a nanny and a babysitter and continue to use that resource. Yeah, we use nannyservices.ca, not sponsored, but definitely very helpful. And it was also a good thing that we paid for the first month because we gave limited chats too. So I was already talking to her the previous month and I just kept her phone number just in case. And lo and behold, I needed it. So it's always good to have a backup for childcare because you don't know what could happen. There are days off that the nanny really does need a babysitter and they just can't make it. An emergency happens and you just need that. So it's just good to have in general. And having a backup plan when it comes to childcare, it's always a must. And yeah, it's really about having structure in place for yourself and your child. And yeah, I would always try to put things in writing, whether it's over text or email, so that way you don't get your wires crossed. And yeah, we send the schedule text ahead of time, so that way we are both in agreement. And even verbally reinstating it multiple times is also helpful too. And yeah, first cancellation, it's okay if it happens, and especially if it's for like an emergency. But the second time around, you want to have a conversation and honestly start to look for backup or make sure you already have backup before all this. So that way you're not scrambling last minute. Understanding can be a gift that you give freely. Accountability is something that you hold and you should hold firmly. I believe you can be a compassionate person who also has boundaries. And I think that is exactly the person I want to be. And I'm practicing that in real life. I think it was a good opportunity for me to learn how to hold those boundaries. I do want to zoom out a bit and not just make it all about myself because I know other people and other women specifically have been through this where they're minimizing themselves and thinking, oh, maybe I'm just an inconvenience, or is it right for me to be talking about this when the other person feels so uncomfortable? And yeah, like being seen as a difficult person. Like my whole life, I've always been like the nice, good girl, the nice, good Asian girl, and yeah, I don't want to be that anymore. Unfortunately, like, of course, I can be nice, but I can also have boundaries because I'm just sick of being like stepped over and being a doormat to other people. I'm not talking about the situation specifically, but like in general, like anytime I've been too nice or not holding my boundaries, I've always been overstepped, and I regret it later on because it just minimizes your self-worth. I think I'm very grateful for this because when you're exhausted, you really just don't care what other people think about you, so you're just more likely to really rein in those boundaries and draw the line. And so I think that's what happened to me. And I would like to continue that courage to hold boundaries because I am important, and so is my family. Ever since I had a family, my boundaries have grown a lot stronger. And I'm very grateful for that because I was talking to my therapist way before having children, and she's saying I'm actually scared because I'm not someone who speaks up often in real life like I do on Instagram, but it's different. I'm not someone who speaks up and causes commotion, or I don't like conflict in general. And now I just see it as, okay, this is another lesson and challenge for myself, and let's do it because my family comes first. I think it's better to speak up the first time around because oftentimes it happens for the first time, you can say it calmly, and honestly, it doesn't cost you anything. But a boundary and that's not spoken up for, it can literally cost you everything. So, yeah, something that I've been learning, and it's been hard for me. Some days you just have to do it, even though it's uncomfortable. And the more you lean into that, the better you'll get at it. So yeah, if you're in a similar situation, it could be with your maybe boundaries with your boss. Maybe you're being overworked too much. It could be with your friendships. Maybe they're being too much, or family members, in-laws, anything like that. This episode is for you, and a reminder that you're not being too much. No is a full statement. So yeah, no is a full sentence. And the more you practice holding your boundaries with other people, the better you'll feel and the better you'll get at it too. Thank you for being here and listening to this. I'm always learning and always practicing how to hold boundaries and truly be the person I've always dreamed of being. And that person is someone I'm becoming. Someone who holds boundaries, someone who is still nice and compassionate, but when it comes to their family and themselves, I'm going to put themselves first. And that is not something I could have said 2 years ago. So I'm very proud of myself. And if you're on this journey to loving yourself and really practicing everything you want, really giving yourself everything that you've ever wanted, welcome to the journey. And we'll see you next time. Okay, so today's sponsor is Kind Laundry. Just kidding, they're not really a sponsor, but I do have an affiliate code. Kind Laundry use natural ingredients, and it actually comes in these sheets. So much more useful than liquid laundry detergent, because that stuff gets messy. With Kind Laundry, you can bring this anywhere. It's literally in a box, pack in your suitcase, and it's that easy. You can get 10% off by using code ZeroWasteCute.